Hi, welcome back to Highlander Heart. This is exciting. There's no Joe though, Amy. There's no Joe.
He'll be
Very sad there's
missed.
no Joe. I know. I'm so sorry, Joe. Because you are missing this. Very excited about this. This year we are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Highlander series, and we've started doing season by seasons. We've done season 1 so far. And this is our first interview, and we had to start with one. There was I can't believe I'm going to do this. There could be only one. Sorry, everyone. Yes, he's here, and we're so excited.
So excited.
So excited. Without further ado, here is Adrian Paul. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. I know how busy you are.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the middle of a lot of stuff at the moment.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Well, I want to ask you about all of those later, because there's loads of things I want to ask you about what you've been up to in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and writing and directing and things like that. So we will get to that. But first, I really was interested in how you came to the arts, dancing and modeling and things like that. Where did that kind of come from in your childhood or sort of later in life, and was that the career you saw for yourself, or was it a career that kind of found you?
No, I mean, it kind of found me. When I was 13 years old, I was on stage for the Pirates of Penzance. Was the play I played in. I played one of the pirates. I can't even remember what I did, but anyway, that was the first time. And I loved that. I loved being on stage. But I was a okay. Let's go with the English, a football player.
Yes.
But I have to tell you, and for all your listeners, that's not an English term. It used to be soccer. So all my brothers like, no, you Americans say soccer. I'm like, well, actually, it came from England, believe it or not. So anyway, let's get back to that. So I used to play that. So until I got to about, I think I was about 20 years old, and it was a girlfriend of mine. I was working as at the time, I was working in a bank, because I started working in a bank, doing all input forms and all that stuff. Then I worked for a pharmaceutical company doing cost and pricing, which was doing all the costs and the prices for products and all that stuff. And at the time, I had a girlfriend who entered me for, can your boyfriend be a male model? I'm like, a what? It was for Company magazine. You both know Company. I think it still exists. And I won the competition. And one of the things for the competition was being introduced to a major modeling agency in London. And so I got introduced. I did this spread. I did this thing. And I thought, well, this is kind of cool. So I started kind of getting jobs here and there. And eventually I was getting more and more jobs. So I stopped doing the cost and pricing, and I started taking modeling on full time. And I'd always liked, dance and movement to me was always kind of something I always did. I danced in clubs. So it was the John Travolta era, all that stuff, And the first time I ever got on stage was in front of Princess Margaret. And I was a substitute for some other guy who dropped out. And literally the last minute, like, can you make it tonight or tomorrow for this thing where there's a gala, charity gala, Princess Margaret's going to be there. You're going to be wearing this. I'm like, oh, yeah, sure. You always say yes at first before you know what it is. And I remember I was wearing this satin, I had this kind of like, I don't know what it was, the shirt, really slippery shirt and a satin interior. And I was so petrified walking down this gangplank, literally, because it felt like, go on, get out there. And so I walked down there, and Princess Margaret was at the end. And apparently, and as I was walking down, the jacket was slipping down lower and lower and lower and lower. And I was so petrified. I could have just done this to put it up, but I was frozen solid going down. There's all these photographers. And I got to the end. I turned around and I wiggled my butt and put my jacket on. I got known after that as the butt, because I did this. You did what in front of Princess Margaret? I'm like, I don't know. I know what I did. So that got me first. And I actually really enjoyed it. So I started doing more of that. And then one of my friends was working for a company in Paris, and they said, and I was going over there to model, and one of them said, "Oh, he's actually doing rehearsals at this studio. Why don't you just go and see it? Because I know you like to do choreographed shows, you know, Counts of Eight and all that stuff." So I went over there, and I turned up at this dance studio, and all the guys in there, well, majority of them were English. Some of them danced for the Lido, and some of them they danced for a group called Torso that I knew in London. There were 4 black boys who were amazing dancers, and I'd seen them a couple of times before, and I was like, wow, they move so cool. They're so, you know. And so I started chatting to them, and they said, "Well, why don't you go up and audition?" I'm like, "No, I'm not auditioning. You got to be kidding me." Because at first they thought I was the guy who was coming in for the audition, because I went in there and they said, "You come to audition?" I said, "No, I just come to meet such and such." And I sat there for an hour, 2 hours, and started talking to them. By the time the guy came in for the audition, I'd been studying all the moves. And they said, "Well, why don't you go and do the audition?" I said, "All right, fine, I'll go and do it." So I went and did it. I did okay, I guess, because they kind of liked me. But by this point, I kind of liked one of the girls that was there. So I kind of got friendly with her. And they then said to me, "Well, we're going to Cologne tonight. Why don't you come?" So literally, I didn't go home. I just had a passport on me. I stuck it in my pocket. I got on the bus with them and traveled to Germany for 3 days with them and bought my underwear and stuff on the other side, and got, you know, well, me and the girlfriend, then the girl eventually started dating, but anyway, that's beside the point. So that got me into that, and then they started booking me for these dance shows, and so I really got into that, and I went to the Pineapple Academy in London to start studying jazz ballet, and so I studied there for 2-3 years, and so that's kind of what got me into the stage of it all. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and we started doing, you know, vaudevillians type stuff with like playback and things and mouthing, and I enjoyed that. So, you know, from that point, it kind of then morphed into start taking acting lessons, etc. So,
yeah.
That's what started it.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's a natural sort of trajectory, I guess.
Mm.
So at some point that took you to the States. And then you started getting some roles in some shows and things like that. How did it feel when the Owl came around? Where here's the sort of a pilot for, you know, you're a lead, you know, you've done sort of, you know, smaller parts in other things before. How was that experience for you, and how prepared were you for it to not go to series? And how, you know, how was that kind of?
Let me tell you the trajectory, because in between the trajectories of really odd series of events. I did not go to the States for acting. I went to the States for modeling.
Okay.
I had a friend of mine that lived in Costa Mesa, south of Los Angeles, and he said, "Why don't you come over here?" And I was like, "All right, fine." So I went on my own and dropped everything, went on my own, lived on his couch for, I don't know, a month or two, then got a place up in Hollywood, which is only at the time about 45 minutes, 50 minutes away. I borrowed his Trans Am that I was driving up and backwards and forwards. And after and then I started studying there. And I was always of the mind that you've got to study first and do the work first before you go to an agent, before you do stuff. You can't go, "Look, I can do this, no problem." So I was already studying, and I started to the point when I wanted to put my headshot into a product to get them reproduced. And I walked in, and this girl said to me, "Oh, you're English." I said, "Yeah." "How'd you guess?" And she said, "Oh, you know, they got the new James Bond coming up, and you know, you'd be perfect for it. I mean, I think my agent will really like you." I'm like, "Oh yeah, okay, like back off, you know, like I'm just starting, you know." And so I said, "Thank you very much," and I left. I get home, and there's a message on my machine from her. Now, I didn't give her my number. She'd gotten my number off the sheet I'd signed in on to put my photograph in. So she says, "Hi." I'm like, "Hi, how you doing?" "Well, what do you?" She said, "Well, listen, I spoke to my agent. She, you know, she wants to meet you, etc., etc." I said, "Well, what do you want out of it?" So, "Well, I just want to pay back because people have done nice things for me before, and I think you're great," and blah 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 blah. It's all right. So I went and met this agent, and from that agent, I met a couple of others, but I actually went with that agent, a lady called Lynn Rollins at Stone Manors, and she was a fantastic agent. I loved her. I mean, she went off to manage afterwards, and that's when I broke apart from her. But that was when I'd taken a lot of smaller roles and finally got the Owl. And the Owl was a series that was supposed to go, and it was this close to becoming a series. This close. And what I mean this close is the night before it was a series, the next morning it wasn't. That's how, because an executive had changed executives at CBS, and he said, no, I don't want this. I don't want this thing. And so it was literally from 1 minute to the, I mean, I was really excited because, you know, I'd done a film called Last Rites with Tom Berenger. I'd been on stage off Broadway. You know, I'd done a few things at that point. And, you know, to do a series, well, that'd be kind of cool, you know, but at the time, series were, you know, good to do, but they weren't something that was, how can I put it? It was a little frowned upon it in a sense. It wasn't, you know, you do a series, you're not going to be a film actor if you do a series, and if you do commercials, you're not going to be a series actor. You know, it's that type of thing. Now everybody does everything. You know, so that's how it kind of how we got into that.
Did that spur you on to want to kind of work more to get series, or did you find like that you got like a bit of a confidence knock from it or anything?
No, not at all. Because, you know, I was working. You know, I did War of the Worlds shortly after. I can't remember if it was before or after that. War of the Worlds. I got my own series. You know, my own series. I got onto a series that I was doing 22 episodes at that point. I'd already done. Remember, I'd already done the Colbys. By this point, the Colbys had already, and the Colbys was a Russian ballet dancer. Now, go figure. I'm an Englishman, half Italian, living in America, playing a Russian on an American TV show. So it was such a convoluted idea, but you know, I played this guy, and it was after Baryshnikov's White Nights, the same kind of idea of it, because nobody comes up with a new idea; they have to copy something else, and you know, that's how it kind of morphed. So I'd already done a series before. I'd already done 22 episodes. So by the time the owl came around, yeah, it was going to be my series, but I was working. So one job went to the next. I only found out 20 years later that this thing was almost going to be a series.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Yeah, they didn't tell you anything afterwards. They were like, no, it didn't work. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you later.
It's a hard industry, Dave. It is a hard industry. And you could understand if you would get a confidence knock, because I can't imagine how much of a thick skin you must have to have.
Do you know an actor called Craig T. Nelson?
That rings a bell.
He was on a bunch of stuff. He's on Coach, a bunch of stuff back in the 80s, 90s. Well known. You know, his face is very familiar. He's been on a lot of stuff. And he was on one of the talk shows. And he said, well, the talk show host said to him, "Oh, I hear your son's going to be an actor." He said, and he went, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, what do you mean? Yeah, you've got a really successful career here. You've got a major, you know, series. You've done all these films." You know, he said, "Yeah, I know, but I just don't want him to be disappointed and constantly be told no, because you're constantly being told you're not big enough, you're not tall enough, you're not this, you're not." It's constantly that, and eventually, you do kind of go, "Well, nobody really," because it's not about your work. It's a personal thing. When you're doing that, you're putting your heart on the line. So it's not, "Oh, well, they decided to go another direction," which is the standard answer that you still get.
Yeah, no, I guess it's so going into Highlander, you know, that was quite a big kind of movement, I suppose. It was, I guess, you know, yeah, it's your first lead in a series, and obviously it was successful enough to continue on and on and on. How important was it for you to kind of explore the more creative aspects of what you wanted to do in terms of directing? Obviously that was something that I know you wanted to do as the series kind of carried on. Yeah, was that something that you wanted to do organically as seasons went on? You know, I really want to sort of grab the reins and have a go at that.
Yeah, I mean, because as an actor, you're not really certain what a director sees. You know, I'm currently on doing a series called SWAT, which is you like that show, do you?
I love SWAT. It's our guilty pleasure.
Okay, so I'm on SWAT. I'm doing an episode on SWAT this week, and you know, I go behind the monitor to see what they're doing, to see what the angle is, so that I can get I get an idea of how big I can be, what I need to do. And as an actor, you don't really get the chance to know the other side of it. And a lot of actors don't look at the screen, except looking at themselves, going, "Did I do a good job there? Was my light right, or did I have the right makeup on?" That's not what it is. What's the framing? What's the depth of field that they're looking at? Those types of things interested me, and what a director did, because when I started directing on Highlander, I really got an eye. Yes, I'd already been on there for 3-4 seasons at the time. And I'd done all, and I'd seen directors come in, and I'd watched all their dailies. I was always watching other directors' dailies to see how they handled it, what they did. But you really don't know everything until you get to the pre-production side or the production side of it, where you see them choosing the right costume, the type of lighting that they want, the mood that they want for a certain scene, the etc., the pacing that needs to be done. All those things the director really is the key for, on films especially, and series today. Some directors are more a work for hire, because the series already has a look, and therefore to bring a new director in, they've got to be going with that look and with that style. They can't create a new one, because all of a sudden, you've got these things happening that is not part of what they've already created as the canon of the show. So that's tricky as a director to do that, but really a director really does have a lot of input to do things.
So as Highlander kind of continued and sort of came towards an end, where did you sort of see Duncan MacLeod going in terms of a character post the series, and where did you see your career going? Were they kind of aligned, or did you kind of feel at that point you wanted to do something else? I think I remember rightly, did you kind of go back to your roots a little bit and sort of do a bit of theatre work after that, after season 6? I could be wrong.
What I did after season 6, I created an acting group where we worked on scenes, and we did actually put a play on. So I did go and do that, because I felt that was kind of the organic thing to do. Duncan MacLeod for me at that point, I mean, he was so integrated into who I was and what my life was and my career was, that I did want to step away from him for a little bit, because then you get really classified as that, and I still am today. So that hasn't changed. And obviously doing the film and the 2 films that came afterwards in the 2000s, it's an interesting thing to do. I saw myself going to do more movies. And then I got put into another series, which was Tracker, which didn't work. It worked to a degree, but I think there was just things that were done there that may have been done better on my part, and I think on the production side as well. So there's I think your career is really what is offered to you at that time. Many people turn around to you and they say, "Well, why didn't you do this role?" Well, nobody offered it to me. And why did you do that role? Well, because I had to pay the rent. So actors still have to pay the rent, believe it or not, whether their rent's $1,200 a month or whether it's $2,500 a month. It still has to be paid, right? So you do certain things for different reasons. Sometimes it's if you are an actor that has the ability to have many projects, and then you can pick and choose. But if you're not, you're basically going with what's offered to you at the time.
Do you think that from playing Duncan, that he influenced you as a person as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because I started my charity in 1997, and that was really based on what I'd learned as Duncan MacLeod as an actor as well, because I had so many kids. I was mobbed in the Vatican. Screaming girls in the Vatican. They almost kicked me out. I'm not doing anything. I'm just standing here. And people asking for my autograph. I felt that what the elements that I was able to portray as Duncan MacLeod, I wanted to continue it as a person. And so that's where the charity work came in, to sort of continue the ideology that was kind of created in Highlander. And so it did affect me, because I do a lot of historical background stuff. Sometimes I didn't have time to do some, but if you're doing flashback stuff to Scotland, to Bonnie Prince Charlie, to the Revolutionary Wars, etc., you read up a little bit about them. You see what the things were, so you kind of get an idea. I mean, I really realized, I'll be totally honest with you, what bastards the English were to the Scots. I mean, absolutely decimated them in some, and they tried to eradicate them at some point. You know, so when you're looking at that, you know, I mean, I saw, you know, William Wallace with Mel Gibson. I loved it. I mean, but that's true. They were trying to eradicate them in a lot of areas. And so when you look at that, you kind of go, because it's always the same. When you grow up, it doesn't matter what country you're in, your country's the best. They never do anything wrong, because that's what you believe, because that's what you hope. But it's not always the case.
Dare I ask about the source? I kind of feel like it's an important moment, because I think everybody in the sort of Highlander community and was rooting for you, was rooting for the franchise. Here was a moment coming off the back of Endgame, which was not a perfect film, but was still, you know, by my reckoning, a very, very good Highlander film, if not one of the best sequels, if not the best sequel. And then here's this chance for you and for Duncan to take the reins and fully kind of take this franchise forward. And I know that I remember being at one of the conventions, it was the one in Leeds, and they showed the trailer for it, the kind of the concept stuff and all of that. And it was, you know, it was mind blowing. It was like, oh, this is going to be amazing, but it didn't quite turn out like that. We were very lucky to have Brett on last year, I think it was, and sort of told us a little bit about the kind of behind the scenes and why things didn't quite work out that way. But I was interested to know again about how that kind of how you felt about that and how that affected you, because as I say, yeah, things didn't quite turn out the way we'd all hoped.
Let's put it like this: we were hobbled from the beginning,
right?
Because the original script that David Abramowitz read to me and Peter Wingfield was not the script that I was given when we were going into pre-production. It was an entirely different script, and it was difficult to work on. It took us 3 months to just get it to the three quarters through it, and it just, you know, we were putting a square peg in a round hole, so we were already hobbled before we even started. And you know, there were several issues I don't want to get into, but you know, that stopped us from producing what it should have been. I mean, I literally just recently found out what it was and who it was that actually hobbled us, but I don't need to explain that. But we were already hobbled by the time we started, because the story was okay, but there were so many holes in it. You know, it worked okay for the first half. The visuals were good, the story moving forward was good, but then there was the reason why and how and when and all this stuff kind of got all muddied after that. And I think that was part of the issue as to why it didn't hit home. And, you know, really that killed the idea of having a trilogy and to take it to another spot. I thought this was going to be the one that would take us to, you know, a series of three, at least another 3 films, and it just didn't. It just wasn't up to par. And in the movie industry, there are numerous reasons why things happen, and many things can go wrong along the way. But the hardest thing is when you actually have a script that wasn't up to par to start with.
Exactly. You're fighting a losing battle, I guess.
Yep. Pretty much. You're fighting an uphill battle, basically. I mean, you know, if we filmed what was the original script, it would have been even worse.
Right.
So let's leave it at that.
Okay.
I suppose it's even harder when it comes from something that you're quite passionate about. Like if it's a movie that you've not had experiences in before, but you've got the whole series behind you.
Well, let's put it like this. I spent 5 years of my life, 6 seasons of Highlander. I knew it back to front. Doesn't matter whether you're a producer or a director that came in. Nobody had the experience that I had on knowing what Highlander was and how it worked, apart from maybe David Abramowitz, who'd worked on all those things. And some of the actors that understood the heart of that series and what would actually also work in a film. What you have in a film is you have a microcosm of time that you're showing people, and therefore you put everything into that microcosm, and the story is highlighted. With a series, you're able to expand on all that. Well, I think we already knew what the series was about and what the legend was about, etc. And you know, I wish we'd had the David Abramowitz script instead of the one that was, you know, given to me and to the rest of the cast and crew to walk forward with.
But moving forward after that must have been hard, especially in terms of how you felt about Highlander. I would imagine it must have kind of sullied that kind of wonderful, well, I'm sure there's ups and downs, but it's sort of lovely memory of that time you'd spent with the character and the time you'd spent in the franchise. It was lovely to see you do Sword Experience when you started to do that, partly because it's just great fun. I've done 2, and it's like always, I mean, you made me do press ups on one of them, but that's fine, I got over it.
When was the last time you did it? When was the last time you did it?
It was LA, the convention in LA.
It's massively changed since then.
Yeah, no, I bet it has. But I can see the improvements even from because I came to I think it was the first English one that you did. And I could see from that point to the LA one where you had started to build in this kind of almost like a narrative of making the people who are taking part feel like they're in a movie, like feel like you go from beginning, middle to end, and then you're shooting it like at the end, you're like running around with the camera, and it felt like you're part of the whole process. You've learned how to sword fight. Now you're sword fighting on screen, and that was fantastic. And I know you also started to build in more kind of like I think just more kind of warm-ups, which is great, because the first time I did it, I couldn't walk for about 2 days afterwards. So that's awesome as well. But I'm hoping when you come to the UK next time that I'll get to experience it again.
Well, the way it is now, it's actually even more structured, because the Sword Experience started in 2015 with, like you said, just basically showing people a bunch of moves and helping them work through it. And then it worked into putting a story behind it, and getting people to sort of be part of a mini movie, if you like. Then it's gone on to that. I have my academy events, which are really broken down to the fitness and the targeting and footwork and then choreography as well. And then there are retreats which spend 3 days of working on various things. The elite events, which is the one you did, now really are based on a story. So, and I have lines now for people. They come in and do small lines, and you know, you I mean, you can see it on our YouTube page. You can see any of the events we have on our YouTube page, how people, you know, go in, and I actually am now able to get actors in and give them, you know, discounts as actors to come into the movie, come in and do lines, so they get a reel. They get a reel of a fight thing, and they get a reel doing act. So I get a better quality acting portion of it, because I can't expect regular people just to be, you know, able to get into a character. But so I did individual stories. I've done one on Sweet Tooth. I've done one on a variety of different TV shows based on that, and this is the continuation of that. So I could cut in a couple of little filmic things about the actual film that they were doing. I actually take pieces of the series and show it. This is what we've got. And then it also came to do, what is the location? This location might be historic, so we add the location, the interviews now from the people who actually where the location is. So it then grew to that. Last year, at the end of last year, I did 5 events that had one story. So it started at one story. It was a revolution based in the future in 2035, I think it was 20. So, and then the next story was the first story was how the revolution started. Next story was the people in government, how they were now going to suppress it. The next one was like an uprising at a certain place. So each one was a story that continued to the next. So it's again changed. I'm trying to see what I'm going to do this year.
It sounds awesome.
Yeah,
It's very different. I mean, again, you know, the key thing is to find a balance between. I mean, I did one in Akron, Ohio, where I did a black and white. So I took it from Charlie Chaplin's. Which one was it? Time. I forgot it was. He was. Charlie Chaplin always got into trouble, but he was talking to somebody, and this guy nearly ran him over, and this flag falls off this truck or lorry, and he picks it up and he starts waving it, but behind him all the workers are in resistance, so they come, so he's in the front waving this flag, but he doesn't realize he's actually now the head of a revolution type of thing. So I made it about that. So I played the whole thing about them. It was a strike, and the strike was about not, you know, you couldn't go into they wanted equal workers. I found a brewery that we had it in. The guy had to come in. He had to wash his hands because it was the COVID times. So he had to go and try and find a bathroom. He got caught up in it. I mean, so this whole story became about, and so it's so much fun to do that. But there's also a balance that we realize now that we have to have. Whereas, you know, some people want to do the story. Some people just want to really focus on the training. So you have to really now balance it now. So we really realized I had 10 of my instructors. We had a big discussion as to what worked and what didn't work last year, so that we could improve next year's events to kind of bring them around to, okay, now we know that people don't want to stand around, because our events are 5 hours, 6 hours. But if you're standing around for half an hour, 45 minutes, it feels like I'm not doing anything. I'm not getting anything. Although watching people, you actually do learn. So so that's how we kind of now we'll adjust things slightly.
Awesome. And that kind of dovetails nicely into your writing, I think, because there's clearly a creative mind going on here. You're effectively making secret movies with what you're doing.
Yeah, because I write all of these. I write and direct them all. I do all of them. So
exactly,
you know,
which
I
is
have to
great.
write like it's fun. It just gets me like that creative side. Just hopefully, I mean, it doesn't turn into a really good script. It just turns into a functional script that I can actually shoot these events. Because you've got to realize I do all of this in 6 hours. So when I shoot it all, it's only 6. I spend maybe another 4 or 5 hours, you know, getting extra shots and different things here and there. But in reality, to train people and to focus on the whole thing itself, it's 6 hours from beginning to end, which is very quick paced idea to get it accomplished.
It's ambitious though, but why not? You know, it's good to be ambitious, 100%. So where is your writing at the moment? I know you've written some scripts. I know there were some scripts you were looking at directing as well a few years back. Where are we with all of that?
Well, the other side of it is my production side of it, which is where we're moving forward in Hungary with. I mean, this war is not exactly doing us any favors at the moment. I don't want to talk about that because that's kind of now putting me into a different position politically. But I'm totally against the war. Let's put it like that to start with. That we have the ability now to produce movies that have Hungarian content. And we have one already funded. I have a second one that's already funded by the government, actually, by the Film Fund, sorry. And the first one is already in the second stage of delivering all the paperwork, which will be in the summer. And then my one, which will be a much larger budget, which I've already, because it's like I was saying before, when you had a script, it's not just writing a script. You can't just write a script. It takes time to develop the characters, make sure you got the right through line, all this stuff. And this script I've had, which which is supposed to be our second movie we're going to produce, which I will direct, is going to happen the end of this year or the beginning of next year. it's taken a bit of time because it goes through a process of I want to make sure that because you can't be subjective a lot of the time when you're writing yourself, so you have to give it out to other writers, and there's different programs that you can send out to where you have critique done by a variety of writers, and I've done it twice now, and gradually now it's gotten to the stage where people are going, actually this is really cool, but you need to do this, this, and this still. And so I'm in that stage now in the writing of it. And I won't attack it right now because I don't want to do it too early in the process. But because other things happen as well, that, you know, you're going to keep writing and adjusting things all the way to the production, because actors will come in and the director will come in and say, you need to do this. And, you know, well, I am the director in this case, but but you know, the location may affect the changes. You know, somebody might come up with a great idea, because I'm always of the mind that you have as a good a battle plan, or as a good a structure that you can, because you know something's going to change or something's going to go wrong, and you've got to be able to adjust from that point.
Fantastic. Well, that's exciting. I'll look forward to that. Lastly, just I'm interested in how is your work-life balance? Because I know you already had 2 children last time I saw you in LA. You now have 7, not 7 children.
7?
Another child.
Oh, I have 7 kids. God, 7 kids. Oh, I'd be grey. Totally grey.
No, same.
I don't have time for 3. I have 3 kids. Only 3.
Yeah.
His name is 7. Yes, that's right.
Oh.
I now have 7 as his little Sevy's his name.
That's cute.
2 years old already. I can't believe it.
So amazing. How did you find that? Because I know, personally speaking, the difference between being a father at 30 and being a new father at 40 is a world of difference. I found that quite a struggle.
How do I find it? It's a bloody shock. That's what it was. It's like, oh, I've got another kid. Oh no. It's harder. You know what? The funny thing is, I always think there's a balance in life, and there's the time for you to do things will be the time for you to do things. And he has really been kind of the glue for our whole family, in a sense, you know, between my other 2 siblings who argue constantly. You know, you can't get up in the morning without them arguing. I mean, literally within 5 minutes. I'm like, are you guys already on it? Can we just spend like 5 minutes? You know, and but he's kind of the fun part that everybody kind of is. So he was supposed to happen, and that's kind of how I see it. He was supposed to be there. I'm really excited to see where he's going to grow, because he's a cheeky little thing. He's crafty too. He's got that little crafty thing going on. But we'll see where that goes.
A nice little positive thing throughout the pandemic.
Well, yeah, I mean, the hard thing is during the pandemic, when you've got a newborn and 2 kids studying at home, that is really that's a lot of work, because you have 3 different levels of need. You know, you've got the baby need, which is kind of like, you know, feed, change, put to sleep. That's it. And then the other ones are like, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. You've got to be able to take them out. So you're juggling all of those aspects with, you know, a girl and a boy, which have 2 totally different needs. You know, and as I said, they're very different in what they're actually expecting to get out of life.
Oh, well, I think you're doing a fantastic job. You managed to do that, and you know, and everything else as well. It's impressive, I have to say. I've got 3 kids, and I can barely function beyond work.
I know it's hard to function. I mean, it's you know, I have so many things to take care of, and I have to really compartmentalize all this stuff. You know, like I've still got to do the Highlander memories. Highlander memories is some of the stuff I did for each of the Highlander things. I'm now actually videoing all the stuff behind it, so you get visual before I did all the audio of it. Film Fight Insights I've got to do the daily vlogs. I've just launched on our YouTube channel, Carry On Chronicles. And Carry On Chronicles is this, every time I go somewhere, my view of what the best restaurant is, or what happens there, or people I meet, and all those types of things. And I mean, I just did London and Italy, and I've got another one I've got a bunch of them lined up, you know, deliver, because I think it's kind of, and people really tend to like this apparently, because it's a totally different insight rather than just giving the daily vlog. But there's a lot of stuff, so you really got to go, okay, what do I need to do? I need to accomplish this, this, and this today. You know, today, for instance, I'm going to my son plays soccer here, and he's pretty good. But the team's got their first game this Saturday, and so I take some of the kids and I train them in ball control and just things like that, just the basics, where I let the coaches, you know I do this, and just to get the kids together to understand each other, you know, a little bit better. So, you know, I try and, you know, okay, today I've got to do this, this, and this, and tomorrow I've got to do this, this, and this, you know. So it's really compartmentalizing stuff, and, you know, I just don't know where it's going to stop. That's, you know.
Well, look, I massively appreciate the time you spent with us. Thank you for fitting us in.
so
Thank you
much.
for joining me. Hopefully I can see you guys in England at some point.
Yeah,
be
no,
amazing.
absolutely.
I'd love that.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
Hi, this is Adrian Paul reminding you to hold fast and, you know, don't lose your head.